So if you're on the lookout for a decent replacement for an older phone or a backup or maybe a relative out there, the Pixel 9 looks eerily similar to the Pixel 10. Is it still worth it? Well, of course it is, but let's get into why in this video. If you like Pixel content like this, then go ahead and tap that subscribe button. Give it a little stroke as it nudges us closer to that 400k mark, and I'd love to have you join the team. Cheers. One of the best things about the Pixel 9 for me is that it looks almost identical to the Pixel 10. So it means if you do choose to pick this up or you're using one already, you're not using an out-of-date design. And hey, that probably doesn't matter to most people, but it could be important to you. One of the best things about this is that you can actually use a few of the Pixel 10 cases if you really wanted to access Pixel Snap, but we wouldn't necessarily recommend it because they don't quite look right, even though functionality-wise, you lose nothing, just a weird gap below the camera bar. So if you are thinking about doing that, I wouldn't suggest it, but you can do it if you really wanted to. I think using the same formula might be stale to some people, but it works, so why change for the sake of it? The best news is that this finally shows Google is confident given the success of the Pixel 9 design. The company settled on a physical form factor that works after years of fiddling around, and it's no secret that the goal is to make the switch from iOS to Android as easy and painless as possible. A familiar design goes a long way to calming the nerves of a potential switcher. The Pixel 9 is the perfect example of this philosophy, and the Pixel 10 essentially improves upon that a little bit, but not necessarily so drastically. While I might grumble about some of the minor details such as the power button size on the Pro XL not increasing to match the slightly boxier frame, the overall experience of holding this phone, even with the case, remains absolutely fantastic. Another bit of good news here is that there doesn't appear to be any major hardware faults to speak of with the Pixel 9 series. Like any phone, some people have their own foibles and complaints, but I do think with Pixels being plagued with widespread problems year after year, it's great to see that after a year of usage, the Pixel 9 series doesn't seem to have that. So that's a really good selling point for the predecessor. This is something we've craved for years, and you've catered to well here as well. It bodes well for the long term, the more you use these older generations, as you're not necessarily having game-breaking problems and hardware faults, and that is something that really, really does make a big difference for prospective buyers. For me though, Material 3 Expressive breathes new life into the Pixel 9, I think in the ways that Android 15 and that base Android 16 release early this year were unable to. This is where Google is truly able to differentiate its hardware from everything else on the market. Samsung, sure, they might dominate the market in terms of sheer volume of sales, given that they account for almost 1 in 4 Android phones sold globally. Still, most Galaxy phones can't replicate this distinct Google software experience. You get new animations, you get improved visuals, and a marginally improved performance as a result of this update. The QPR1 launch bled new life into the Pixel 9, especially after some pretty minor updates over the years prior to that. I think at its core, this update is identical to the software build found on the Pixel 10 II, so while you may miss out on some of the extra AI functionality, none of that is groundbreaking enough to be drastically upset about if you do own this device or want to pick one up. Sure, the competition might offer faster processors or more RAM, but they can't offer the fluidity of a system that I think is fully integrated in all parts of your digital life potentially. That is what the Pixel 9 delivers that others can't. The Pixel 9 already has seen multiple updates as well, fixing things like audio delay problems when you're using video applications or stability issues when switching between some of the camera lenses. These monthly patches and security updates on top of Pixel drops, I think are a testament to the fact that your phone is a constantly evolving product, and Google exemplifies that with the Pixel 9 probably more than any other phone on the market. With more updates due very soon, the prospect of even more optimized experiences and many of the best bits of Google all rolled into this older device is a damn good buy, especially as other OEMs are really struggling to get their own Android 16 updates out in a timely fashion and out the door. We're almost 5 months on from the full launch of Android 16, and barely anyone outside of Samsung has offered a really wide rollout to their handsets. Of course, all Pixel 9 devices get day one updates, and that's something that won't change long into the future. Another great thing about the Pixel 9 is that the core setup on most of the Pixel 9 series devices and Pixel 10 lineups is similar enough that photos are gonna look great and not drastically different. In fact, the base Pixel 9 has better dual camera systems than the Pixel 10's initial dual system, wide and ultra wide, due to some changes that have been made to make it more in line with the Pixel 9a. So if you don't care about dedicated telephoto lens, which I do think is admittedly a big selling point, then you'll arguably get better photos on the base Pixel 9. The only major differences in the end results actually pertain to the tuning of images, a little bit of color tweaking here, some tonal changes there, but for the most part, you'll have difficulty deciphering which camera took which photos unless you love zoom shots with your Pro phone. Yes, the 10 Pro has a better zoom, but it is powered by AI upscaling, so at least in theory, a third-party application on the Pixel 9 Pro XL or 9 Pro might offer some of that functionality anyway. The cameras, I think they're still very, very good on the Pixel 9 and are backed by Google's excellent camera updates as well. Even video quality stacks up quite nicely between this duo, though I will say Google's reliance on Video Boost as a workaround for lower quality footage is a bit of a cop-out. However, I do think it is a good workaround and the resulting footage is still very, very good, even if I'm hoping for better on-device processing on future Pixel generations. As it stands, ultimately the camera is a prime example of that Pixel value proposition. You don't need the absolute latest, greatest multi-lens Pro Max Ultra setup to take, in some cases, world-class photos. You need a Pixel, basically, as the camera on the 9 is still right up there with the best from Samsung, OnePlus and others, while not necessarily having all of that hardware tucked inside. It's just doing just as much with technically less on board. So for me, the biggest reason that many people out there who are looking for a new phone might want to at least consider the Pixel 9 lineup is that with discounts, you're getting a really solid deal. Sure, there are bigger, better, faster and shinier phones out there to choose from, but they don't necessarily give you that same experience. You're paying for something that those other phones maybe can't replicate as well, even at their higher price tags. For me, with more updates due very soon, the prospect of an even more optimized experience and many of the best bits of Google all rolled into that one device makes this a really good buy, or any Pixel 9 series handset a really good buy. I think if you're asking the question, is the Pixel the best option for a phone right now? Well, suppose you want arguably the best software and are willing to forego some of those bells and whistles. In that case, it absolutely is a great alternative, even to the Pixel 10, for anyone looking to save a little money without sacrificing too much in every area. You'll be hard pressed to find a more compelling mix of that software intelligence and hardware value for under $500 or under $700, whatever it happens to be. I think genuinely, if you are looking for a smartphone, you want something that is not going to break the bank, you're happy to go back 12 months and look at a device, the Pixel 9, specifically because it's so close to the Pixel 10, might be the one you're looking for. So yeah, I'll leave some links down in the comment section below, as well as to the best deals currently available on the Pixel 9. But yeah, let me know what you think. If you're still rocking the Pixel 9, tell me why you're sticking with this phone, and if you are going to be sticking to it in the future. I think it's a really, really good base level for where Google has been over the past few years, and I'm hoping they can continue to build on it with the Pixel 11, Pixel 12, so on and so forth. But yeah, cheers for watching, and I'll speak to you later.